Chapter 5. How do you get a bird out of its cage? When Kaito was younger, his grandmother used to have him practice his aim by throwing little rocks at targets. Occasionally, his aunt would come by and visit his mother's grave. "Hey, Kaito," she'd say many times. "You don't have to stay here. Come live with me in the city." He always ignored her. He just kept throwing the rocks. "The city is a lot of fun, you know. You'll have lots of friends your own age at school. We've also got sweet candies and great books. Your auntie won't make you do this training stuff. I know for a fact this isn't what your mother wanted for you."
"Stop trying to fill his head with that nonsense."
His grandmother came out to the porch with a glare.
"You're a disgrace to the Momota legacy. I won't allow you to pass on your selfish behavior to the true heir of this family. You visited the grave. There's no reason for you to stay any longer."
Kaito woke up to the familiar buzzing of his phone. Seriously, Kaiba? At this hour? Another riddle? How do you get a bird out of its cage? "I've got some exciting news," Mr. Naegi cheered. "This month is the Hope's Peak Annual Festival." Kaito frowned and glanced down at the book he'd handed out. It looked like a script of some sort. "The whole school is part of this celebration, so I say we go all out. How about we put on a play? Our class is full of beauties, after all." "Which play, you ask?" "The classic of all classics, Romeo and Juliet. I've worked hard to rewrite the script and have given it a modern-day edge. I'll show you." As Mr. Naegi rambled on like usual, Kaito couldn't help but glance at the 2 empty seats, once occupied by Korekio and Maki. What happened after their attempt failed? Were they really just sent away? Or did something else happen? He didn't like not knowing.
"Ugh, so totally boring."
Mew tossed her script aside.
"Go ahead and count me out of this one, Teach."
Participation is mandatory." The teacher laughed nervously. Damn it, that meant he would be roped into this stupid thing too. But, on the other hand, his gaze landed on Kokichi. He seemed at least excited by the idea. Maybe he'll at least give it a shot. Tenko was cast as Romeo, and Himiko as Juliet. To be honest, no one really seemed surprised. What did surprise everyone was how gung-ho Angie was about being the director.
"Angie really knows what's up."
Kokichi glanced over at the white-haired girl as he twirled vines around a set piece.
"Yes, she was really into theater and art at her last school."
Tsumugi shrugged. "This isn't really my thing," Tenko sighed. "It's just not me." Himiko jumped off the makeshift balcony and began pushing the taller girl towards it.
"Yeah, maybe a different part? You'd make a much better Juliet than a Romeo."
The smaller girl laughed.
"Don't you think so? You are a lady, after all."
Watching Angie try to reel them in and give them stage notes was pretty entertaining in and of itself, especially once Mr. Naegi attempted to intervene and was promptly kicked out. Kaito didn't notice Kokichi struggling to lift one of the fake pillars until Rantaro walked over and lifted it out of his tiny arms. "There you go." The green-haired boy grinned.
"Whoa, you're so strong, Rantaro."
Kokichi rubbed his arms like it was sore. "It's the only redeeming quality I got." Rantaro put another stick of Pocky in his mouth as he pointed at an unpainted one. "I'll go ahead and grab that one, too." "Less work for me. Go right on ahead." Shortly after that, Kaito heard Mew and Kaede went on strike, leaving Shuichi to create the costumes by himself. Not that the quiet boy seemed to mind. He appeared to like the solitude and freedom this gave him. Kaito took a break from setting up the heavier pieces, drinking a soda on one of the boxes and carefully keeping an eye on Kokichi. Even when his life wasn't in danger, the kid still managed to attract all sorts of trouble. Rantaro sat down next to him, with a bottle of water in his hand. "Looks like we'll get everything set up today." "Looks like it," Kaito nodded. Straight from tests and into a school festival. It's kinda nice. Huh. The green-haired boy smiled wistfully. It's like we're real students. We're far from it. I'm aware of that. But look at it this way. Everyone's having fun. How often can we say that? It's pretty rare. Kokichi waved over at them next, to the newly spray-painted pillar he'd been working on.
Hey, Rantaro! It's finished! We couldn't have done it without your help!
Rantaro waved back as his phone began to ring. Oh, sorry. Better take this. Kaito watched him go with hardly a word. Rantaro answered the call just outside the gym's doors. Hey, what's up, Fuyuka? He tried to calm his rapidly beating heart. Had something gone wrong at home?
I'm freaking out, bro!
His younger sister cried. In the background, he could hear the usual cacophony of noise that was their home. You just hang in there. Rantaro forced the smile on his face, even though he knew she couldn't see it. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of everything before you know it. 'Cause I'm your big brother. It's my job, isn't it? Okay. Later. He hung up with a heavy feeling over his shoulders. From the very beginning, he knew what he was here to do. Fun? The festival? None of it was real. I have to do it. Kaito had no idea how he let Kokichi drag him to the bath this late at night. He guessed that the smaller boy wanted to use it, but feared being alone. There was the added plus of him already knowing about his scars, so it didn't really matter if he saw.
Giant bath! Giant bath! A huge, gigantic bath!
Kokichi sang as he bounced around the water. He abruptly turned around and flicked some water in the taller boy's direction.
Kaito, look out!
He giggled. Don't get too carried away. He wiped the warm water from his face. I don't want to run into anyone. We're getting out soon.
No one else is going to take a bath this late at night, silly.
Kokichi rolled his eyes.
Hey, come over here, and I can wash your back for you.
The smaller boy swam over, clinging to Kaito's arm. I'm all right.
Oh, don't be so shy.
The door to the bath opened. Kokichi gave a little squawk and ducked down. Kaito glanced back to see Rantaro standing in the doorway, a towel around his waist. Oh, was I interrupting something? He raised a playful eyebrow. He didn't seem to expect a response, as he walked over to one of the shower stalls. The green-haired boy sat on a bucket and began using the shower head to wash his hair. The only sound was the hiss of the water and occasional splashes from the bath. Kokichi seemed to be noticeably uncomfortable, his hands covering the scar on his neck. Finally, Rantaro broke the silence. So, I was talking to Samugi. He glanced back at them, with an almost cruel smile. Having other people die so you can live? I'm curious what that feels like. Letting someone sacrifice their life for your life. How exactly can you live with that and keep on smiling? That's enough! Kaito stood with the intent to go over to the green-haired boy and deck him, but a tiny hand around his wrist stopped him. I will smile. As if to illustrate his point, Kokichi grinned. Always. For a moment, Rantaro looked shocked by this, before frowning and turning away. You're a twisted piece of work, he muttered. Then he called over his shoulder. You hear that, Momota? He's gonna keep smiling, even if you die for him. Kaito growled and grit his teeth. Oh, give it a rest. You're starting to scare little Kokichi. He looked down to see that indeed the smaller boy looked a bit frightened. He took a deep breath and backed down. And you call yourself a Momota. Look how tame you are. What the hell happened to you to reduce you to this? As meek as you are now, I could probably kill you. He'd had enough. He wasn't going to stand there and take this. Come on, Kokichi. We're leaving. Kaito got up out of the pool, heading for the locker room, with Kokichi trailing not that far behind. They were quiet, until they got to their room, where the smaller boy asked if he was okay. "What's with you?" He wheeled on him so fast that he noticed him jump and step back. "Why aren't you mad at him? The crap he was saying, doesn't it make you angry? At all?" "I just don't see the point in getting angry about it." Kokichi sat his bag on the table. "Besides, I know that's the reaction he wanted, and I wasn't going to give it to him." Kaito turned away to hide the shaking in his hands. "Rantaro isn't usually like that, though. Wonder if something happened." Kokichi sought out Tsurugi and asked if she would tell him if she knew anything about Kaito's family. People kept mentioning how, because he was a Momota, that he was supposed to be something, but he wasn't sure what that was. "Is the Momota family seriously that incredible?" Kokichi asked. "Incredible doesn't even cut it," Tsurugi beamed. "In these circles, even the name Momota, man, it gives me the willies." "So they're famous?" "Are you kidding? Everyone's heard of them. They're part of a clan of assassins that have reigned over the dark side of Japan since ancient times. The Momotas of the East and the Kuzunohas of the West. They've served those in power in every era, secretly altering the country's history." A tray was slammed down on the table next to Kokichi. He yelped and almost fell out of the chair. "Perhaps you've forgotten the second rule of Class Black." Kaito frowned at Tsurugi, clearly overhearing the conversation and disliking what he was hearing. "Oh, you're going for the curry again, I see?" The blue-haired girl wrung her hands together. "You must really love that stuff." "No one is supposed to discuss the history of other classmates." The taller boy glanced off to the side with an annoyed look. "Well, sure, but I'm the class arbiter." Tsurugi flashed a peace sign and stuck her tongue out. "She didn't say anything bad, if that's what you're worried about." Kokichi leaned his elbow on the table. "In the future, ask me directly if you're curious about my past." Kaito tilted his head towards him. "Just leave this nobody out of it." "That's me," Tsurugi saluted. "Oh, so then what's your immediate family like?" "This sounds like a date." "Shut up, Tsurugi." "Well, I don't even know what my father looks like. My mother died shortly after I was born. So, I was raised by my grandparents. My other relatives are not around." "Not around?" "They're dead." "Really? What a coinkydink. My entire family is either dead or missing as well." "Didn't ask, Tsurugi." "Oh!" Kaito stared out the window, Riddle in front of him, and students milling about beneath him. "Hey." Rantaro walked towards him with a guilty look. "Texting the fam?" "Not quite." What the hell did he want now? "Sorry. I was a bitch last night." The green-haired boy sighed. "I just had some weird stuff on my mind, and I lashed out at you guys. Don't worry about it." If Kokichi wasn't going to be mad about it, then he didn't see the point in being angry either. Man, another peaceful day out there, huh? Rantaro turned to face the window. If life was fair, Kokichi would be out there with all those other kids. And not just Kokichi. It's not like any of us are here because we want to go through with it. He began walking away. I'd chalk it up to crappy luck. Honestly, Kaito, wouldn't you rather give Kokichi the freedom he deserves? The freedom to get away from all this? We can give him that, you know. Breaking away from the rules of Class Black? Kaito faced him fully. Is that what you're suggesting? The green-haired boy shrugged. 10 o'clock. Here. Tonight. Let's talk more about it then. The reward he got for the first person he killed was measly. A table full of smiles for his sisters, and a little something for him. A bottle of lime green nail polish. He'd always wanted it, even though he knew it wouldn't suit him. No need to tell me your reward, Rantaro. Tsurugi stood in front of him with her tablet in her hands. I was given the details when you were invited to Class Black. You want enough money to keep your family well fed for life. That's the gist of it, right? That's right. Rantaro chewed through the end of his pocky stick. There's one other thing that I want to make sure of, though. He whispered into the blue-haired girl's ear. Her eyes briefly widened, before she smiled.
That won't be a problem.
Kokichi entered the gym hesitantly. He really didn't see why Kaito had dragged him all the way out here. It wasn't like him to just leave a note telling him where to go.
Kaito, you in here? You better not have stood me up, because that'd be mean even for you.
He pouted dramatically out of habit. He could make out a figure in the darkness.
Oh, there you are. Found you. I win hide and seek.
But as the figure came closer, he instantly knew it wasn't Kaito, and that this was a very, very dangerous situation he got himself in. Rantaro appeared out of the shadows, a solemn look on his face.
Rantaro, have you seen Kaito? Idiot left me a note telling me to meet him here.
He tried to keep his nervousness out of his voice. Keep up the lie that you don't know anything, that you don't know any better. Maybe Rantaro just wanted to apologize for the night earlier. I didn't want Kaito to attack him or something. The pit that opened up in his stomach told him that his thinking wasn't right. He's not coming. The green-haired boy shook his head. It's just us. He stopped, just a few feet in front of him, holding out a piece of paper. An advance notice. But don't worry. I'm here to set you free. Kokichi instantly turned on his heel to run, only making it a few steps before his scarf was ripped off and something was wrapped around his neck. As he was lifted off the ground, his hands went to claw at the thing cutting off his air. It was a wire? A thin wire that dug into his skin and wouldn't budge. Blackness curled at the edge of his vision as oxygen was denied entry into his lungs. Just when he thought he was going to lose consciousness, the wire suddenly slackened, and there was a blow to his back. With air now moving freely into his lungs, he began to cough. He didn't need to look up to know who had saved him. Kaito. What a liar. Rantaro crouched into a fighting stance. You were going to blow off our meeting right from the get-go, weren't you? You're one to talk. Kaito gripped his knife tighter. You got me there. But I was still telling the truth, Rantaro declared. I lured Kokichi here to give him his freedom. There's only one way out of this hellish game for him, and that's to die. Kokichi coughed weakly and turned his head so he could see the two of them standing across one another, with Kaito in between himself and the green-haired boy.
Kaito!
He wheezed. Don't worry, I got this. He nodded. Rantaro suddenly shot at them with his fists raised. Kaito kept lunging with his knife, but each time he tried, he kept blocking it with these metal bracers he had on. As he was knocked back, Kokichi jerked forward.
Kaito!
He cried. Don't move! He shot back. You may be a Momota, Rantaro growled as he threw a punch, but that's just a name. As weak as you are, you can't kill me. All at once, he was moving faster than he could keep up with. He was stumbling back, avoiding getting hit. The green-haired assassin swung a fist, aiming straight for his head, but he caught it straight away. That's all I needed. Kaito smirked. He switched the grip on his knife, so the blade was facing upwards. This time, he was the one moving too fast for Rantaro to handle. By the time he was able to stumble away, he was covered in slashes on his shoulders and forearms. Kaito kicked out, hitting him straight in the stomach and sending him flying into a wall. He slumped down, not unconscious, but slightly dazed. Damn it, he moaned. That was hardcore. He staggered to his feet, stumbling to the side. How many people did you have to sacrifice to get that strong, you friggin' monster? Are we finished? Kaito challenged. He shook his head. You've made our bad luck worse. He shrugged. We both know there's no backing down from this. Not for you guys, and not for me. We can't escape this, no matter what we do. If we're ever going to be free, then this, Rantaro smiled eerily and extended his hand to the side, is the only way. In other words, Kaito saw a little too late the wire in his hand as he yanked down, I win! That's it. There's one other thing I want to make sure of, though.
And that is?
If I don't make it out of this one, like if I die, my family will still get the reward, correct? From now on, they'll live with smiles on their faces, just like Kokichi. The rafters gave one big shudder and began to fall. He dove to the side to protect Kokichi, curling himself around his body to shield him from any debris. With a bang, the rafters slammed into the ground all around them. Dust shot up from the ground and into their eyes. Yet, they were protected by one of the pillars that unintentionally propped up a section of the rafters. Once the dust settled, Kaito moved off the smaller boy, checking him for injuries. Thankfully, there were none.
Where's Rantaro?
Kokichi glanced around with a worried look on his face. Kaito scanned the wreckage, spotting a stray arm sticking out of a particularly large pile of debris. He pointed, before jogging over. The two of them moved the sections of pipe and ceiling tile off the assassin quickly. After it was all cleared, he checked Rantaro over for any injuries, much like he had done with the smaller boy moments earlier. No life-threatening injuries, he reported. Kokichi sighed in relief, and smiled. The green-haired boy groaned and opened his eyes. Kaito extended a hand towards him. Think you could stand up? What? What is with you? He blinked up at them confusedly. Oh, jeez. I lost. And I'll admit it. I was trying to give us all a nice, clean death in one swoop. Like a shot-put ball to the head kind of death. Kinda botched that one, didn't I?
We can't die yet.
Kokichi retied his scarf around his neck.
Not that easy. Because being alive, it means that you've been forgiven. Forgiven to be here now.
I swear, dying would be easier. Rantaro chuckled. It's not like I actually asked for this. Life can be pretty meddlesome, huh? Well, it doesn't seem like I've got much of a choice. One way or another, I guess I'm gonna need to keep at it somehow. He broke out into an all-out laugh for a moment, before settling down. What is up with you? That icy face of yours almost looks relieved I'm not dead. Well, it looks like this means you can't die yet either. So keep at it too. Hang in there, okay? Kaito swore everyone could hear Mr. Naegi's horrified screams at the wreckage in a 3-mile radius. The three boys had concocted a lie so the poor guy wouldn't get involved. Kaito, Kokichi, and Rantaro had gone in to do some last-minute touch-ups when the rafters suddenly collapsed. The only one who was hurt was Rantaro, who apparently would be spending the rest of the year in a hospital. Or at least, that's what Mr. Naegi would be told.